Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's day 2 of our project with the BMW. This BMW has gone through a 3-step paint correction and has been coated with our CarPro CQuartz. Now we just like to take this chance to bring you through the second part of this video series that we have, and at the same time do a product review of all the shine supply stuff that we featured in the video previously that we might not have covered enough. But before all that, we just wanted to take this chance to also talk more about the local detailing scene and the comparison between Singapore's detailing and US detailing. Now, in the US, cars don't usually go for respray. I've seen a lot of impressive videos online. They usually go for paint restoration. But this whole process actually takes a bit longer than it would in Singapore's context. Detailers might spend days, maybe even a week. Cars might just be at the workshop for a week for the detailer to actually work on the car itself. And that's because the whole detailing process actually takes a significant amount of time. We're talking like the full 3-step paint correction, and the US practice is that they will use the entire bottle of coating onto the car itself. But the local context is a bit different, isn't it? A lot of times detailers in Singapore are pressed for time. The norm in the industry is that we need to give the car back to the customers as soon as possible. It's kind of a combination of a lot of factors, but it's a very evident aspect of our local community. It's kind of like a combination between the cost needed to run a business from our point of view and also the customer's expectations. We are also facing heavy competition from our neighbors in Malaysia, because the idea is always speed, coating, polishing, make the car shiny. But I feel that there are a few issues with this whole picture that I would like to just point out in this video. Firstly, with cars expected to be delivered so fast, not all detailers in Singapore will be willing to go through the multiple steps of paint correction process. So naturally, the coating layers are also something that detailers might not have the time to properly coat a car. What do I mean by that? Now, detailers may promise you 3 to 4 layers, dual layer, or even multiple layers on the car's paint, but how long do they actually have to let the coating actually cure, bond with the paint before they pass the car back to you? Let's use an analogy. For example, let's talk about painting. Now, when we talk about painting a wall, why is it that some companies, they can charge you a substantial amount, but some freelancers can do it at a cheaper rate? Could it be because the freelancers do with only one coat of paint, they only paint your wall once, while companies might take a longer time working on their project, but they end up painting your wall 5 times with 5 layers of paint? Now, which end product would theoretically be better? Which gives you more confidence in the quality of the wall being painted? I believe that speaks for itself. But at the same time, if anyone were to paint a wall 5 times, how long do they actually let the paint dry on the wall? In between, do they actually give the paint enough time to dry on the wall, or do they just go multiple layers of the paint on the wall rapidly? The end product will also be a bit different if we think about it this way. The same applies for coating. Now, as Supreme Share, we try to redefine these standards and these expectations of the industry. We don't try to compete by being one of the faster detailing shops that gives you back the car as soon as possible. In fact, we actually take our time with it, in the sense that we usually take a day or two. And that's because we try to give the customer the full package, the whole detailing process, the coating, ample time for it to cure and bond with the paint, and of course the videos that we do for this channel as well, where we feature the customer's cars for our appointments. Now, this whole package, which I would loosely term it as the detailing standards of the US, I want us to be able to give it to the customers. We are able and willing to give it to them. But the issue is always whether, not only if the customers is willing to pay for it, but also the fact that if they are willing to leave the car with us for a day or two. Because this topic comes up a lot during our casual conversation with our customers, during our interactions with our quotations or inquiries, is that sometimes customers are a bit curious or shocked that they have to leave the car with us for a day or two, when other detailers in the industry can return it to them in a few hours. But I think it really boils down to our process. This is the process which we detail a car, and we just really want to give this whole experience of your car being detailed by us to the customer, which is actually what we it's actually a good example is this BMW owner. The owner of this BMW has a very significant and high standards for his car, which is why he really wanted a premium experience when he left the car with us. That's why we are taking our time with this car. It's day 2. We're coating it with a second layer of the CQuartz and trying to give it the most premium feeling we can. Now, of course, there are ways to make our jobs faster. If other detailers can do it, the common question is, why can't you? Our beliefs and our process of detailing may differ from us to other detailers, but definitely there are ways that customers do ask or other detailers do say that we can explore. Let us go through them just quickly. The first one is the infrared lamp. Now, how infrared lamp works is that we actually need to take a lamp, we shine it on the car. The heat and the electromagnetic waves, they speed up the whole chemical reaction between the coating and the car paint itself. So this will make the curing time a lot shorter and also make the coating bond with the car's paint faster. Now, we have used the infrared lamp. You might have seen it in our older videos, and we do have it in our arsenal. Whenever we need it, we can use it. But we try not to be too reliant on it, because ultimately it is a form of shortcut. It's similar to using a fan to just make the paint dry faster when it's on the wall. But back to the analogy of the paint, if we are letting the paint dry on its own, it's definitely going to get you a much better result than you rushing the whole drying process. You might get patches on your wall if you are using a fan. The whole panel, is it uniform in terms of the rate of curing? Will we get patches? Will we get different levels of water beading, of hydrophobic capabilities? That's something that is worth bringing up, and it's why we don't overly rely on infrared lamps. The second thing that commonly gets brought up is that we can hire more workers, we can work on the car simultaneously. But the problem with that is that our process here, we follow a very strict principle and belief is that everyone is in charge of one process. So if I'm doing the washing today, my partner might be in charge of the drying. So if we're talking about polishing, paint correction, if I'm doing the compounding, he will be in charge of the polishing, and I may be taking up the finishing. If we are doing coating, I will be in charge of application, he will be in charge of buffing it off. With each of us taking a very standard step of the detailing process, it helps us to ensure a level of consistency in terms of the standards and the results that we deliver. But back to the car, when we're talking about standards, what standards are we exactly referring to? What can you expect if you hire us to detail your car? Let us show you. Now, the previous time we left off, we talked about this decked out tire dressing. Now, decked out is a water-based tire dressing, so it definitely loses out in some areas to the gel-based tire dressing. But there are also some benefits to a water-based tire dressing. For one, this decked out is a bit special because it has a specific dilution ratio based on the finish that you want. So if you're looking for a high gloss, you will need to dilute it 1:1. But if you prefer a satin finish, you can dilute it 2:1. So for this, we actually went with the 1:1 ratio. Previously, we also talked about the sling, but I don't find it to be such a huge problem because if you really would properly wash the tires and clean it, which we did using the Shine Supplies Wise Guy, you actually really clear the tire of all the contaminants that allow it to have a very optimal bonding between the tire dressing and the tire itself. So when that happens, you have a lesser chance of sting. So in our experience, the sting didn't really cause any trouble. In fact, there was no sting at all after we applied it, and we didn't give it a very huge rest time. It was a very average rest time that you would have if you're going for a car wash. So definitely in terms of speed and ease of application, I will find that this decked out tire dressing also deserves a plus. Now, the price point for this in the gallon might be a bit high, but what you should take note is also the fact that you are actually having the freedom to dilute it either 1:1 or 2:1. And if you're going to dilute it 2:1, you're actually getting about 3 gallons worth of products, or like 3 gallons worth of usage for your tire shine. If you're going to do that, and if 1:1, you're actually getting quite a huge amount for the price you're paying. Now, while Maguire's remains our favorite, I think the benefits of this decked out tire dressing or water-based one shouldn't be understated. The problem with Maguire's that I have sometimes is that it requires a lot of time to properly evenly spread it out across the whole tire, and because it's gel-based, you tend to use a lot more than you would use for a water-based tire dressing. Now, I definitely think that this is worthy of consideration, especially at this price point and the versatility of it, being able to give you 2 different finishes. So I would say for detailers, it's something that you can consider, especially if you're looking at something that is one much faster application and want to send the car out as soon as possible. Definitely something you can consider. Now, from where we left off previously, we actually maintained the car using these 2 Shine Supply products. Now, moving forward, this will probably be the wash aspect of the maintenance itself, in the sense that we use it to clean the car in between washes, while this is the protection aspect. Now, we did end off with the punch-in as a topper, and also this is actually very useful for maintenance as well. Use it dry, just spray on the paint with spreader yourself. But there is another method that you can use it, which I find is worthy of sharing. You can use it as a drying aid. So when your car is too wet, you can just spread this around, you can just use a drying cloth and just clean the car, dry the car. This helps you to add that layer of protection onto your car to make sure that your coating is working at an optimal level. And also because punch-in is compatible. Punch is compatible with all your glass surfaces, your paint, and so you can use it just spreading it across the car without much worry. For a car like the 640i, which is a bit larger, you might find a bit trouble maintaining regularly or find it being a chore. I think a product like that really helps you. Now in the interior, this is the area I showed in the previous video on where we worked on for the trim source. Now we actually worked on the entire car. Sadly, I don't have any external trims to show you, but this trim sauce is something I'm very satisfied with. Not only does it rejuvenate the entire trim just to give it a darker look, I actually went ahead to put another layer of trim sauce onto the trims after the first pass actually dried out. The trim absorbed the sauce. I feel that after you do this, you do it 2 times, it actually gives the most optimal result. When the trim is relatively very black, it looks great, it doesn't look old. And most importantly, I think because of the water-based trim dressing, if you end up getting it on your other chrome areas, your car's paint, it's not that much of a problem because you can just wipe it or wash it because it's water-based. You have a bigger problem when it's a gel-based dressing, so it's something worthy of praise, I feel. So for trim sauce, definitely something that's very, I would say I'm very satisfied. Now, Shine Supply does live up to its name. The punch gives the shine, the protection, but how does CQuartz do? I think there are a few things that I neglected to add on to the video previously, which is how do I feel when working with the CQuartz? How do I feel about coating compared to IGL coatings? Now, there's one trouble that I have with IGL coatings is the fact that the top coat especially, it's very susceptible to weather conditions. What I mean is that when the weather gets a bit more humid, or if the bottle is open a bit longer, exposed to air, you will face a bit of trouble with the top coat in the sense it becomes a bit stickier. Now, when that happens, it's a bit harder to apply because instead of just spreading water, it becomes less viscous. It's like pulling glue across the whole part. This is not the best explanation. It's not as terrible as it sounds, but it's the closest I can give to an analogy. So when that happens, it's very difficult to bump it off, and at the same time, you also have to work a bit slower, smaller panels, and also it slows the whole process of coating application down. Now with the CQuartz, I didn't face this problem. In fact, it's very easy to apply. The flash time is still very convenient, I think, for us to work in Singapore, where we face a lot of different weather conditions. It can be hot one moment, and suddenly at the end of paint correction, the whole weather turns very humid. Now, with the base coats of Kenzo and also Quartz Plus, I still feel that sometimes the flash time is not that consistent. It's very easily affected by the weather. But for CQuartz, I don't face such a problem. I think that's something that's worthy of praise. It's something that you can consider. Now, in terms of loss and protection, I do hope the videos do it justice because I hope you're seeing what I'm seeing there. But the paint just looks very fresh, very new, and so it just reflects out very nicely, especially because it's white. Every angle you see, it just reflects light. It just glows. Now, a bottle of coating, for example, this CQuartz, usually a bottle like that can let you reach out to about 2 to 3 cars, sedan-sized cars. And if you look at this itself, there's about 1/3 of the coating bottle left, and that's because we already applied 2 coatings or 2 layers of coatings onto this BMW. Now, we are going to put a 3rd layer soon. Stay tuned for that video. But first, at this stage, we just want to test the hydrophobic capabilities of the coating. We don't do a water beading test. We want to do a review. How's the gloss? How does it look? Just to share everyone what 2 layers of coating, when given enough time to cure, can look like on this BMW. A quick interruption just to share. These are the 2 cloths that we use, the sweet cloths that we use for the coating itself. The first layer and also the second layer. Now you can see how hard is it. The coating has totally cured onto the sweet cloth. This sweet cloth is no longer usable, but I just like to show you how the coating is on the cloth itself. Look at this. I can no longer fold the middle part. So this is what you can expect forming on your car itself, because coatings, they react with air, harden, bond with the paint. Imagine this on your car, and that's what's going to be protecting you from all the dirt, the dust, and especially the water. But whenever water beading comes into the topic, I feel that there's a general misconception on water beading effect. When we're talking about the hydrophobicity, the capabilities of repelling water, a lot of times customers get fixated on seeing beads of water forming on their panel itself. I think this is also made worse by the fact that when we are doing the water beading test, a lot of times we are using the pressure gun available at the HDB washing bay setups or your own pressure washer setup. The problem with that is that pressure washers, they have air bubbles in it because of the way the pressure gun works. So naturally, the water that ends up on the panel will end up forming in beads, and it's not a very good representation of the panel's hydrophobic capabilities. What customers should be looking at or focus on is actually the the way the beads of water, how they flow off the panel, how fast they flow off the panel. Do they get stuck there? Do they stay there? I think that's the main idea and main objective of getting a coating, so that water doesn't stick onto it and dirt sticks onto it lesser. The scientific term for this is called contact angle. Contact angle is basically the shape of the water beads that form. So if you are going to look at a very microscopic level, some coatings, they boast this thing called, hey, we have a very good contact angle with the water that comes over. We give the water a very good contact angle, the water will definitely repel away. Because if you have a better contact angle, the higher contact angle, the beads will be more ball-like, so they just flow off very nicely and easily, compared to something that's maybe a poorer contact angle for the water. It becomes very oval shaped, so it sticks onto the panel, it doesn't roll off that well. So when we're using this blower right now to dry the car, you will see that it's kind of like simulating a situation where the car just drives off high speed, the wind is blowing onto your car, water will just get brought away by the wind and not stick onto the car itself. And speaking of contact angle, this contact angle is this significant difference between coatings and waxes and sealants. The contact angle of ceramic coatings, due to the SiO2 properties, is something that waxes and sealants have a very hard time replicating, and even if they are able to replicate to a certain extent, it wouldn't last as long as coatings do. So definitely coatings are something that you will get your values worth, because even though there's a significant higher price point than using a wax or a sealant. And it's because of all these science between the coating and the car paint itself. But hey, what do you think of the detailing scene in Singapore? Are you the type that will be willing to spend up to $1,000 like in the US to leave your car for a couple of days, plus you have a video to see what your car has been through for the past couple of days, just to get the feeling of your car being like pampered in the detailing workshop? Or will you be more willing to spend something in the lower price point just to get your car like a express polishing? Let us know in the comment section down below.